Welcome back. I'm Michael Ball, and this is the Commercial Real Estate Show. Today we're talking about auctions. We have Scott Schwartz here with the Commercial Auction Group. And Scott, I'd like to talk about in this segment some of the various types of auctions, because it's just not one size fits all, right? So what are the basic types of auctions?
The oldest is probably the old-fashioned way, is just show up, which is considered an on-site auction. It's selling on site. Typically, you'll go straight to the property, and the auctioneer will be there some level ahead of time and conduct registration, answer any questions, that sort of thing, and have the auction conducted right there, which I think traditionally is still every auctioneer's favorite. We like to do it, and I think bidders like that too, because they get to stand toe to toe and eyeball to eyeball. They see exactly who they're bidding against and so forth. But with technology being what it is, the internet has come in with a lot of online type auctions, to where some assets now are just sold online only. And there's certain types that may be better served to be sold online only as opposed to on site. And then there's kind of the combination of what I like to consider the best of both worlds. And typically for your bigger commercial type assets, you're going to have in order for me, what I think, in my opinion, to get the most amount of money for an asset is a combination of an on-site auction that's coincided by live webcast bidding, to where you've got a facilitator off-site facilitating bidding for people that just can't participate in the auction for one reason or another, to where you can hear the audio, see the auction take place, and you'll be prompted to bid based upon what the auctioneer is asking for and so forth. At the same time, the live auction is going on, and in my opinion, that's truly the purest way. And many people that participate on a live webcast auction do it for two reasons. It's a convenience factor for them. That doesn't have to necessarily, if you're selling an asset in Dallas and these people are in Charlotte, they don't have to incur the cost a second time after they've done their due diligence and inspection to come back out. And also, too, there's another reason why it works, is because certain people, and especially in larger type assets, they like having a little bit of curtain behind them. They don't necessarily want to know that they don't want everyone else to know at the auction that who's bidding against them and so forth. And so there's a little bit of a psychology to that as well that works.
And what do you say to the bidder? Let's say that they are in person and they're competing with a bidder online that they can't really see. How do they get a comfort level that that's real?
They don't. Listen, I call it what it is. If you can't see them, you don't know, and that type of thing. But that's starting to fade a little bit. The best advice I could give a bidder in that regards is, if you think that the person on the other end of the phone or online is not credible, then don't bid.
Right.
And when you put it in that regards, they say, well, I want to bid. Well, just bid, because I think as time goes by, every auctioneer has had to embrace the technology, and we love it. It works well. It broadens our market to be able to allow more people to bid, and it really works. So, but I know what you're saying is the suspicion of who's on the other end of the phone and online type thing. But that's fading. Every auction we do, it fades and fades, because it's become more accepted and more real.
Okay. And of these types of auctions, which ones would you say work best for a certain type of asset? Is there, how do you decide which we recommend to clients?
The online only, in my opinion, some properties aren't the prettiest to look at, and some of them aren't the easiest to get to, and so sometimes those may serve better online. And I also think, too, the reason they go online is when you don't think you're going to have a huge market, to where maybe the market's thin for that type of product. And so if you put it online, maybe the only 2 or 3 bidders out there that actually exist that would want to buy this. It's easier to put it online because it works, and you're not going to have the huge crowd there that you like to have, just from a positive standpoint, where bidders see each other. I think we all validate each other with our own actions, and so if a bidder shows up to an auction where there's only 1 or 2 other people, they start scratching their heads going, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? If it's online only, they don't know. They assume they like it, so the rest of the world could be potentially bidding against them.
Well, if it's absolute and there's only two guys I'm bidding against, I might actually like that.
Well, I'll say this: it only takes one other knucklehead to screw your deal up. That's all it takes. And we've had those where you have two people there, but as long as you get the right two people, you can be equally successful, because in every auction you're always going to have a high bidder and you're always going to have a backup bidder, and so two is effectively all it takes. And I also think too that other properties where you're going to have a great demand and you know that there's going to be a lot of people at the auction, the on-site auction works because it just it's like a restaurant where the parking lot is full of cars. Before you walk in, you assume the food is good. An auction is no different. Right. If you pull up and you already have a multitude of cars there, that person who has been inspecting the property by themselves ahead of time, their suspicions are already validated by the fact that there's other bidders there. So it takes a lot of you want to look at any asset that you're going to auction on the front end to determine the best format of how to market it to get the best price for it and convey the right message that you're trying to.
All right, and let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the process and the cost. So if I have a property that I'd like to consider the auction process, what should I do and what might it cost?
Well, the first step is we like to go look at it. There's an old, no one knows how dumb you are until you tell them. And until you go look at it and do your homework and educate yourself on what you have, we don't like to get too involved with potential expectations and prices, because we're going to look at it from what we think it's worth and what we think it should bring at auction. And if it coincides with what a seller thinks, then we can take the next step. And the next step is, okay, we're somewhere in the ballpark of reality, and let's look at the components of cost. And with every auction, there's two components. Typically, there's some level of marketing cost incurred, and there's a commission, and the commission's only paid at the time of closing, typically. But we want to put together a marketing campaign on the front end that is effective to get the job done. And the cost of that can fluctuate from as little as $500 to $50,000 and up, just depending upon the asset type. What we're finding out, to be more specific with that, is the old days, and this is purely my opinion, and we're seeing it happen throughout the industry, the old day of spending a ton of money to bring people in is diminishing. The nice looking brochures, the big heavy postage costs and direct mail and so forth. What we're finding out is we are positioning ourselves online through internet marketing and so forth to be available when people are looking for us, and that's the biggest thing. Is as people are all online and looking for different opportunities, we want to make sure that we come up on that first page. And when we're doing our auctions, we survey the people that come to our auctions just by a quick show of hands. Doesn't take long, and say, hey, how are you finding out about today's auction? Well, the sign on the front of the property is always effective, but by and large, direct mail has diminished, and it's all internet and email is what we're seeing is where the response and where the bidders are coming from and where they're getting their information.
Okay, so as a seller, I'm going to have this upfront marketing cost, and that can vary, and I guess you could give me various price ranges I could pick from, right? And then you mentioned a commission, and we're short on the break, but that commission's really paid by the buyer's premium, right?
We use a buyer's premium. It's an effective tool to essentially put more money on top of the high bid that's paid for by the buyer. And in terms of what we do, we try to be competitive with what's out there in the industry. So what we do, we look, every deal's different. And so there's nothing etched in stone with us in terms of cost up front, who pays, commission, these types of things. We want to look at it, try to put it back in the seller's hand and say, look, this is what we think is competitive and will work for you.
Okay. All right, we'll take a short break. When we get back, we're going to have some tips for bidders, for buyers, for brokers, and for sellers. So stay with us. I'm Michael Bull. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. We'll be right back. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Florida International University and Bull Realty Commercial Brokerage, a great place to do business. For more information on these companies or to access additional podcasts, videos, or blogs, visit commercialrealestateshow.com.